welcome to another webinar. Hey, my name is Will Manoe. Today we are going to be presenting multi-currency management. Thank you everybody for coming and assisting the video. I'm going to be showing today some functionality. I'm a Business Central certified consultant. I have more or less 10 years of experience working currently with the ERP and some experience making some implementations and upgrades. So I'm gonna have the pleasure to guide you today through our functionality. So basically, what we're gonna be doing today is working with Business Central in the cloud in order to show the functionality with the exercises we shown in a practical way. So we have different flavors for our weekly webinars. So thank you very much once again. So let's just now begin. So what happened? Do you work with multiple currencies? If you do, this path will help you understand the steps you need to complete the setup. Basically, so from scratch, we're going to start and multiple currencies, then process payments, documents, invoices, and different currencies. So also, we need to review the exchange rates when necessary. And well, we're gonna need, of course, a basic understanding of currency exchange rates, the chart of accounts, and Business Central navigation that we have in our previous webinars. So if you want to assist any of them, please, you're welcome to review all of our material. Now, the basic knowledge that also will be required for today is that you need to know how to purchase and make some sales orders. So this is very important because actually the majority of our processes that we normally would be managing with it's related to this type of operations, right? So we are importing or exporting as well as making some transfers. So as well, banking and payments is important for this part of operations. And at last but not least, we're going to be reviewing some reports, right? So now, if you want to know how to start using foreign currencies in Business Central, we need to first make some setups in the beginning in the system, which I'm going to be doing from scratch today. Expect that we're going to have some exercises and working with this, you're going to be learning with me how this is done. So as companies increasingly operate in more countries and regions, which is most of the time what happens with our customers, it becomes then more important that they are able to trade and report financial results, right? So if you buy or sell in currencies other than your own local currency, have receivables or payables in other currencies, or record yield transactions in different currencies, then you must set up a code for each currency that you use. So companies can complete their initial setup for multi-currency functionality in Business Central by using the currency card. So I'm going to navigate now directly with our magnifying glass. In our currency card, we have all the definition for the special currencies that we're going to be working with. So I'm going to open the list. Here is the currencies. So the currency cards were, well, basic parameters for various currencies that are used by a company are established, right? The currency exchange rate page is used to set up the exchange rates for selected currency on a specific dates. So once we open the desired list of currencies, let me just open, we have a Canadian dollar, euro, and Mexican peso. I'm going to start with the first one, just to show the parameters, most important parameters that we are going to be working with. All right, here for this type of initial setup that we're going to need, we're going to be working with the code, which is CAD in this case. Description provides, you need to provide a short description for the currency, simple as. Then a symbol is going to help us for the currency that you want to appear on checks, for instance, and I don't know, charts, because actually this is going to be carrying the information. So basically, these are the setups that I will be managing in this case. And then as part of the basic setups, I also have some accounts that I use to post realized gains for our operations and realized losses, right? So this is very important. So we might have adjustments as well, not only that, losses or gains, but also we also have differences sometimes when we receive, let's say, an invoice from a vendor, and then we might realize that In the past, when we trade and later in the present, when we receive invoices, the exchange rate might not be exactly the same. We might have some issues there. So expect to have tolerances for your currencies, which is a very important setup. So in this case, we have 0.15, or in this case, for the total amount of an operation, or in this case, $15, right? Expect that, configure it in the, and try to give just maybe some sense of difference, because this is something quite common. So the idea when we configure also this type of operations, we need to specify some rounding differences. Basically, just a rounding is just it's a rule for amounts for invoices, I don't know, unit amounts for multi-currency transactions, right? In comparison with our local currencies, in fields are replaced by your local currency symbol. For example, if you're using US dollars, you will see the symbol of dollars, but in your local currency, you will be just seeing the money symbol. So you can expect that transactions also will be represented in both your local and foreign currencies. So that's why we normally expect to have and to manage symbols to make easier to read information. Now for rounding, specifies a rounding precision that is used for the currency on invoices specifically. In this case, we're going to be using also, we have some type of ways of making the actual rounding to the nearest, up and down. Then the decimal places here, very important, specifies the number of decimal places that are displayed for the currency. The minimum and maximum number of decimal places are separated by a colon, right? And so on. So, well, we have different type of roundings. Like I said, this is just the normal setup that we normally do. I haven't done actually so far any other different than this, that we manage 2 decimals normally in order to present the information. And that's why we understand that we also might have differences, right? So the reporting, let me just open this one. Okay. We are going to be configuring this in this session, but we need to specify some GL accounts that are used to post exchange rate gains or losses when currency adjustments between the local currency and the additional reporting currency. The exchange rate gains are calculated important when we have a job, adjust exchange rates engine or batch job is run to adjust general ledger. Let me explain this. We might have some types of operations where sometimes we need to continuously, on a daily basis, maybe adjust our exchange rates. So we might need to then readjust our documents that we are posting throughout a specific date. And we can tell the system, hey, let's take a look at all the documents that I have posted before. Please adjust with the specific exchange rate that I'm indicating at some point. All right, so basically it's just that. Now, let's take a look at the exchange rates that I'm talking about. If I just open the actual currency that I'm showing, I have one window for exchange rates. And the idea is that I'm going to have a relational currency code, which if in this case is blank, this means that we're going to be working with the local currency. Right? And in this case, the currency code that I'll be working with is the CAD for Canadian dollars that I was explaining. So the relational identifies the currency to use to specify the local currency, leave the field blank, basically. Then the exchange rate amount identifies a rate to use for the currency that is selected on the line. Use exchange rate amount and relational exchange rate amount fields when you are recording transactions. So these are very important then to, with precision, make specific conversions. So it is very important that, okay, normally we would have an exchange rate with your actual currency, with your local currency, but verify that you could maybe add more with this 100 or could be 10. You can add here, for instance, for every 100 units of that currency, then we're gonna have the specific exchange rate amount. So basically that's the idea in this example. So with that said, what I want to do is let me just, I want to save this. Let me discard the changes. So with that said, for each new exchange rate, a new line can be entered on the currency exchange rate. So you can continuously, on a daily basis, if you want, continue to add different exchange rates. But the idea is that we're going to be adding more with different dates, of course. So if I have some, well, look at this, it's very old, 2017. In order to operate, I will be working with a new date, and I try to add a new relational exchange rate and exchange rate amount. Basically, the idea is that you have the update, or unless you have a specific policy on in your company, maybe you would like to set up one specific rate that will be working for several days, right? Now, we have occasionally companies that are use foreign currencies might not be required to update. That's something quite common. This means it's just fixed. The appropriate exchange rate can be when users enter the sales and purchase documents, when they are entering customers and vendor payments in the general journals. In this case, make sure that the fixed exchange rate field does not contain the bought option, right? So if you can see here, I have the fixed exchange rate amount. So the idea is that I will be remaining with currency, right? Or will be relational currency, but avoid when it's constant to have both, all right? So in this case, that's the idea when we start setting up, just to learn some basic features. Of course, when we do implementations, we might go in depth with this type of functionality. For me, this is just in a webinar, I'm trying to give you the idea about the basic setups, and then how then do we actually use all of this. Now, I'm going to work with some definition. You can set up in Business Central to exchange data in specific tables with data on external files, such as currency exchange rates. Typically, you will set up data exchange definitions. However, when you set up that exchange definition for a service, refreshing currency exchange rates, so we can connect, in other words, with web services, with a specific website that can offer the service. And then we can directly connect in order to give you the automated update of these relational currencies and exchange rates for your specific operation. So it depends. Just let me show you that we can do it. I don't know if for my demo, I actually have the a current service operating. Let me see. Services. So, okay, I have one. Let me see if it's great. Okay, what we would need is a URL. Okay, specifically, I see this is actually, by the way, a demo from Microsoft. So for the moment, I won't be able to automate my process, but it's simple as just ask or look for a provider for the service. There are plenty of different agencies that actually are just public, and they offer the update information about any currency. So you can just maybe register, and all of them offer a URL from where you can consume the information. So in this case, you would need to just copy and paste in this URL your actual service provider URL. So you can actually just come in Business Central, and with an automated process, it will be then providing it will be updating your currency exchange rates. So with that, you will be then, you would avoid having to do it manually like I have just shown before. And it will be it will be quite convenient for your operations. And this will be more convenient when you actually work with we exchange rates and different exchange rates on a daily basis, right? So, okay, let's go back to the actual setups. This is just showing once again, in this case for implementations, if you wanted, we could just update that and give to you an automated service. But now coming back to the actual setups, what I'm going to do is I need to show how to set up my currencies for different customers and vendors as an example. So in my example, I would like to verify my list of vendors. I'm just going to open. In Business Central, all of the vendors that we create can carry one special currency. It depends if you are, for instance, buying from another country. So in this case, we have one specific field that is going to help us in order to set up currency. So for instance, I have the Castle Shares vendor. And in this example, I have the currency code, which is euro. So in comparison, and I can see the balance that is here. Let me explain this part. Whenever you create a vendor, why not? I would like to create a vendor for you to see this part because it's important to analyze the actual operation. I have just set it up with euro currency. So it means that my transactions would be using that. For the user will be purchasing or in this case, or making invoices to this vendor, and it will be reflecting the actual currency that I'm configuring. Just with that, it's very simple. Now, what happens when I start to operate? Let me present that in a moment. Well, but it's important to understand that only the document that is presented to the user will be shown in euro, but my actual accounting figures are actually not in euro, but in local currency. So if you see balances here, like in this case, this means that this is local currency, even though this might be euro. Now, this is important to understand because even though we have it, we have just configured it like this, just your actual figures in the tariff system will be using the local currency. Okay, now in the invoicing tab, we have one field, once again, that is called euro, a currency code configured with the euro currency at this point. Now, the same needs to be configured, very important, not only for vendors. Now, you might have the customers, so you sell to other countries or even in your local territory or country, but it's important to define anyway sometimes specific operations that will be worked with other currency to payments that you will be receiving from your customers. So it is important to actually just be sure that you are working properly with the actual currency code, all right? So in this case, I have a customer card. You can see the picture of the customer contact. And here, once again, if I take a look at my invoicing tab related to any accounting process, I have some specific setup. This is a domestic customer. And once again, I'm presented here with the currency code field in order to actually just update the information accordingly. Basically, that's the idea. Now, if we actually work with currencies, it's super, super important sometimes because what we do with our bank accounts, let me show you as well our configurations. I have two bank accounts, one for checking and one for savings. Well, it's actually the same bank, but with a different type of account that I see. But once again, the currency code is here present for bank setup. This will be, in this case, super important due to the fact that conversions and balances for your actual banks are necessary to be done in the correct currency. We cannot handle, even though it would be possible maybe for some banks to have a different accounts in different currencies, then in Business Central, we just configure one bank account per the checkbook that you have in your bank. So if you have one bank with different accounts or for maybe one in dollars, another in your local currency, well, we just set up because we have a one-to-one relationship with your bank and your bank accounts in Business Central, and because the currency handled is just one, as well as the customers and vendors. Nevertheless, for instance, your customers, important to understand, or vendors, they are different because sometimes they would like to pay maybe in the exchange in the foreign currency or local currency. We're going to see in our first exercise how that we can actually, even though we have set it up, we can still just change or edit the actual process, right, to work with the currency that we actually want to handle. So this is not fixed. When we have just configured the currencies in the actual documents that we can just use, we can actually just change the actual currency. Let me give you an example. So I'm gonna create a purchase invoice as an example. So I want to just work with a new vendor. Why not? Maybe better for you to see the actual and complete setup that we do. So I'm gonna create a vendor from scratch. And for the first time that I create a new vendor, you can classify it if you want, for instance, business to business vendor or cash payment vendor, all right? So these are just some templates that we have pre-configurations for the user to make simple when to have more simplicity when they actually just create vendors. So some fields are pre-configured. Now, this is the furniture specials. This is my new vendor that I'm just, oh, excuse me. That I'm just setting up. And for me, it's very important now, you would need to complete for other type of operations, of course, the entire information, right? And in first place, once I have done a specific basic configuration, well, in terms of work properly with this, I would like to, let me see, to have a configuration at last of the actual currency, right? So this vendor comes from Germany, and in this part, when I have the currency code, I will be then using euro as an example for my specific work. Now, in this case, I'm not going to do further type of setups. You could anyway add some pictures if you have actually some prepayments and other type of operation. We have also the payment terms and the payment method code. Basically, just mandatory fields that we will be working with. Oh, look at this. Red asterisk means that sometimes is a required field that you need to actually use in order to work with this. So this to me at this point is not actually just for the demo, not relevant, just showing general setups for the vendor. Now, what nevertheless I actually want to do is create, once again, my purchase invoice to show the functionality. So let's open our first invoice with the new vendor that we have just set up. And for me, it's just a matter of adding the vendor in the purchase invoice header. Now this is a Fortnite. And the vendor invoice number. Okay, let's just let this on. So, okay, this is just because of the basic setup. Now, for me, it would be important that when I start work with my actual operation, I would need to include just some items. Just once again include the invoice number. This means that I will be purchasing and I will be buying some items here. So it is because the actual vendor is for furnitures and will be buying just chairs, all right? So what happened here? If you take a look, the important here is here. I have just the total in euros, right? So when for me as a purchaser that I'm actually learning currencies, I would actually be the actual amount in this specific field, the total amount that would be in the currency for the vendor. As you can see, this is specified here, right? So for me, it would be more than necessary to actually consider that I will be showing in order to compare with the actual invoice that I will be receiving from the vendor, that everything is fine, right? So for me, it would be then important to try to understand, okay, that's fine, but what would be then the information for the statistics of the actual local currency in comparison to the amount of euros that I'm using here to purchase my shares. So I have some statistics in the purchase invoice where I can see the amount of the calculation that I have done in euros, because remember, in first place, I'm actually just comparing with my invoices, but at the same time, you need to actually take a look at the local purchase invoice value that is here. Basically, is the idea that we present, and most importantly, once you actually generate this information, these two specific amounts are just exactly the same in terms of they have a relationship with the exchange rate, and they will be just posted into the actual GL entries, and then later can be then used to prepare reports. And yes, we can prepare in local currency and in a relational currency for a reporting as well for currencies. So we can prepare different reports in different currencies for you. For now, the idea is that I have just finished and I have just reviewed the basic information of how to work in a purchase order. So it's about now, I just would like to post the invoice. That's fine. Let me see if with my new vendor there were no errors. That's fine. And I'm just going to open the posted invoice, because what I want to show is, okay, once I have a review that all my euros amounts were posted, I'll need to know, and I want to go and navigate into my actual details. Let me see. Navigate. Okay, every document, as you know already, has a specific posting procedure. In this case, this was a foreign, well, I use a vendor that use another currency. So I just need to review the GL entries that I have, right? So in this case, the most important thing, if I just take a look, is just see how all the accounts, let me see, this is accounts payable. And then I have all the inventory. Just by looking at the GL account starting with 2 and 1. And I have all these balanced transactions, but using the local currency amounts that we have just checked before. So it is very important for me to understand that every time I will be working with multi-currency, it's important to understand that I will be once again working in local currency, and all of these amounts were posted in local, right? So now it is important as well to understand that the same will be happening for your customers and the transactions that we generate from the sales department. So it's just similar, but we will be just working, the only different thing here is that we will be working with the, excuse me, with accounts related to sales operations, right? So basically it's just a simple, very simple, as you can see. Now, if we actually are going to work with such a functionality, I also need to understand how I will be then also working with the payments as an example, right? But once I just start working with the actual operations, I need to see, for instance, I would like to now process a sales operation better for you to see. After you have set up multi-currency, then you can, for instance, set up a currency that is fixed, you know, as we have explained just before. So let me just go back. In a document, we show the two currencies in one window with the statistics. And let's make another demonstration. Let me see. Let me see, 1 second, please, because I have a business central. I have a bug with my connection just. Okay, so okay. Oh, I see what. All right, now for me, in order to start working, let me just, in order to avoid the issue that I had, okay, done. Just making some configurations here. Okay, I'm once again going to use the sample for my company. This is a US version actually of Business Central. So if necessary in your own environment, you need to make some adjustments. So to set up the sample company, if we can help you with that if you want to make some exercises in your own companies, if you don't have that demo company, because in order to work with actual currency, we strongly recommend before a training or a demo, so we can help with that. And we can add some companies, or in your own setup, we can create a test company. Now, let's take a look at another scenario, okay? I would like to create now a sales invoice for a new German customer again. Let me create the vendor, and I would like to sell some items in order for us to see and continue doing more learning processes. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the customer side now. Perfect. And excuse me for that bug. Hopefully it doesn't happen. I'm connected to the actual Microsoft instances, so it's just some time we might be, because this is a demo version, just need to review that everything works fine once in a while. So once again, I'm going to be working with the operation with multi-currency, but for now, the idea is to work with a German customer as an example. And I am just creating a new customer by using my customer card. I'm just adding the new one that is going to be called Season Sports AG. All right. So in this case, I need to as well start adding information that you have already seen with the vendor. Is just general information that we need for our invoices. So the address, Eichsfelder Straße. In the region, we need to add the actual country, very important for our reportings, right? And then the postcode, let me see, just basic information. Okay, any one is fine. Let's remember that whenever we configure something, the postcodes from the specific country should be there. So review that your setups in your actual environment are okay, right? So for those of you who haven't actually just worked with Business Central, all of this information can be predefined for specific regions, so you can just work with the basics. Now, I have the currency code, once again, euro. And it's very important to understand that once we have just configured the basics, in order to start working with it, I'm just going to leave it as domestic in this example. But our general posting setups actually will be working. Let me just define this better with another configuration for you to see. That's why. Okay. Let me just go back. Once we just configure just this basic part, I just need to create a sales invoice once again, and let me just use this for you to see the actual configuration. So the sales invoice that I will be creating will be using euro currency, and we're going to be showing once again some information for you to understand how to work with currencies. Now, I need to add an item for the first time. So let's add the item here, the location code, and the quantity. So as you can see here, we can see that the calculation is once again here. You can see that we have some warning about the inventory availability. But for the demo process and the currency management, it's okay for now. We can see that we have the calculation for the sales operation of 19,101.7 euros. So this will be at this point very, very important. By the way, you can check availability of your inventory in all the warehouses. And in here, very important for us, you have profit and last direct cost calculations, all right? Now, the unit price, once again, is selected here, but let's take a look, important to define and understand that for those of you who are actually making operations in other currencies, the unit price of the item that we have configured internally is 190. But when we actually make the sales operation, that price is also converted to the actual currency that we are managing by using the exchange rate that we have configured before to present to the actual customer the information with the exchange rate used at that specific point. Because in a moment, we are going to be verifying how to work with exchange rates in order to modify these total amounts that we present in these sections. Once we just work with that, and we say, or we might say, okay, at this point, the sales operation looks fine. We have not yet understood that we have maybe need to rearrange the exchange rate. Maybe it's wrong at this point. It could be one scenario because we are just selling, and we just don't necessarily have to be taking a look at the exchange rate if it's okay at that point. But we can make adjustments, we can let the users, and we can configure some internal policies. Do you want to actually let the user make adjustments to your invoices, do any type of reason, like rounding differences, exchange rate differences at the end, or they need to be fixed and you actually have some thresholds so we can configure that you allow some differences for your actual documents. Now I'm just going to pause. And with that simple explanation, I'm just finishing my sales operation. Now, once we have just verified that everything is fine, we still need, like I said, to process some payments and understand if the actual exchange currencies that we manage will be the desired exchange rate that we are using while we are operating or no, because we would need them to adjust that part then. Now, I'm just going to be processing some payments for now. So in the system where we work with the actual process of payments, we would, now that we are selling, I would like to receive some cash, okay, in multiple currencies. Now, using the cash receipt journal and the payments journal for transactions with multiple currencies is basically the same as using these journals with a single local currency, right? The primary difference is in posting restriction based on currency. The ability to post a journal is determined by the relationship between the currency code that is assigned to the selected bank account and the currency on the journal lines. Remember that. So for the payment journal, this restriction also affects the ability to print checks that are determined by the currency code that is assigned to the selected bank account and the contents on the bank payment type. So we have some posting restrictions, okay? The rules for posting cash receipt activity by multiple currencies are summarized, let's say, for the blank local currency, when we see it, the post receipt lines in any currency are in local currency. Or if you, in every currency field, if you don't want to manage local currency, you need to add then the symbol of the specific currency code. Okay, with multiple currencies, you can use the same cash receipt journal when the bank account currency is local currency. However, you can also take advantage of the following situations. The payments that are made in one currency can close invoice entries in a different currency. For example, payment that is received in euros can be applied to an invoice in Danish krone. Payments in one currency then can be in another criteria. Payments in one currency can be applied to multiple invoices entries with more than one currency. For example, a payment in euros can be applied to two invoices, one in euros in the same payment, but with another invoice with another currency, dollars, Danish krone, so it's not a problem to work with that. Now, let's start with the basic setup. I need to go and make a simple setup once we just do that for sales and receivables. setup. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then once we open the sales and receivables setup, let me take a look at the, where is it? Here is apply between currencies field. Okay, for this specific setup, we have none, EMU, and all, okay? What does this do? If you select none, application between currencies is not allowed, okay? If you select EMU, application between EMU, which is for some specific Europe currencies, is not allowed, okay? Is allowed, I mean. And if you select all, well, the application between all currencies is allowed. So once again, this means that you could receive a payment in one currency and apply that payment to different invoices that could have, why not, a specific different currency from the actual payment that you are receiving, talking about currencies. So also for printing checks, you need to remember this. That's why we normally give this type of webinars, for you to take some insights into what you can do with multi-currency. Okay, when we select computer check, this means that when you create a payment, we're going to see it in a second, and you want to create a check, you would need to print only the checks for the local currency payments, plus only local currency payments if you want, okay? So if you leave it blank as well, but even in the check that you can printing, you can be printing, we can set it up, and just, it depends on the internal policies, to print only those checks with payments lines that where the currency code is the same as the bank account, okay? Post only those payments lines with the same currency code as the bank account, basically. Or then post only those payment lines with the same currency code as the bank account. It depends if you work with the currency code or if you leave it blank when you actually operate, like we have seen in the any specific field, all right? Purchases, invoices, checks in this explanation. All right. Let me just work with this. Maybe one thing that was important to mention before, let me just go back with one of the actual setups is really, really important. Some of you, and all the time we have, now that we are seeing internal policies for currencies, let me just open for 1 second an invoice. And it's very, very, very important to mention that once you have selected a specific transaction that will be managing a foreign currency, is not a problem for the user for instance, that is working with the specific document, in this case, a purchase example. Before continuing, it's important to define that in every purchase operation, sales operation, and like we have explained in the check, you need to actually work with the currency code per document. So it's not only an automated configuration that we use to on your customer, vendors, or banks to work with your actual operation for payments, for checks, or in this case for invoices for customers and vendors. But every document has one specific field where you can actually change the actual currency whenever you want. So the calculations might be different. So I know that for furniture specials, I just configure it with the actual a euro because they come from Germany, but just for the demo purpose, I have just changed the currency code on the purchase document. And this is at least just giving me a warning and asking me once again, if I really want to continue by changing my currency for the document. So this will be meaning that all calculations will be then changed and presented in another type of flavor with by the use of another exchange rate. Okay, so we would need then just to finish that, and with this, I would then need to explain how to update. I don't need to post this at this point. We have just posted some transactions, but it is important. Okay, in order to work with this, I need to, after my multi-currency setup has been completed, the task of creating and posting sales and purchase and everything that we just do, well, at least just basic exercises, we have just use some multiple currencies is basically the same as creating and posting documents that use local currency, as you can see, but just change the currency field. However, during the process, additional functionality to support multi-currency is available, okay? So let me explain this. First of all, we can update the currency code when you enter documents that we have shown. Edit the currency exchange rate depending on the setup, okay? If it's fixed, like we have just shown before, it will be just remaining the same. And this is done in your currency card, like we have done. So the fixed exchange rate amount is set to relational currency or currency exchange rate. Page 2 will be able to change the currency exchange rate, all right? So you want to display the amounts in both transactions you have, need to open the statistics, and you can view posted amounts in both currencies like we have explained before. Okay, coming back to our exercise, I would like to pay my vendors in euros. So I would like to open my payment journal and payment journal. Okay, very well. And you would need to then use to work with the payment journal that we just present. So specify the specific, well, the date, in this case, 24 of October, but we can work with the 26. Okay, and I have just verified that, and my vendor needs to be added. In this case, the one that we currently know that handles specific currencies with euros, okay? So if you want, you still can change the currency key in this case, but well, in this example, we are just identifying the transactions we have just done before in order to work and show our examples. And then I would like to just go to more, go to actions, to functions, and click on apply entries. Oh, let me just give the document number for my transaction, which is 001, let's say. And once again, action, then function, and apply entries. So this is very easy at this point because we have just one document and basically just that. So what I'm doing is I would like to make a payment with the only actual figure that we have, and I'm just going to accept that. So at this point, you can see the amount that I'm actually just paying, which is in this case 10,048. Oh, look at this. This posting there will be because an overdue payment. Maybe I was actually just posting in the past. So let me just, well, it's just a warning because I'm actually paying in, I changed the date in the posting date to the future. So this will be according to the internal policies generating for you an issue with your payment dates, all right? But it's not a problem at this point for the demo. This is very important to review the due dates when you generate your payments. So it's good to have at least the exercise and see how a Business Central works. So, all right. This is we just can post and the actual bank, let me see. We need to select one bank in this case to balance. I'm not going to use the savings account. So even though I have selected my bank, let me see, you would need to sometimes review the actual exchange rate. So in this example, what I have just clicked the euro currency now that we are just using at this point, and you can modify at this point only for the payments the relational exchange rate amount, which is in this case 0.99.52. So you can verify it at the moment. So even though it's an automated process, we can predefine for you. You can check it only for the specific exchange rate of this journal line. Okay. With that said, the relational is of course USD for the company. And once we have just done this, we will just need to come and post it. So let me just post and print my payment. Do you want to post the journal lines and print the reports so you can generate your answers? And this is fine. Where just for you and to show you some functionality, we have complete integration with our Office programs from Windows. And in this case, PDF was used to print our first payment. So it might be it depends if you want, for instance, to print checks. As an example, you would need to then just generate, and we can just configure and customize the actual layout that you will be using in order to present this information. As you can see, this design is not actually desired to be used in a business environment, but the idea for now is that we are just printing our payment, and with this, we will be then just working with our first payment in another currency. Right, after we have just done that, we need to actually analyze the result of processing foreign currency payments on transactions. So processing payments and cash receipts from customers will result in the creation of a payment customer ledger entry or a payment vendor ledger entry. So when multiple currencies are involved, 3 detailed customer ledger entries are created. When payment is applied, when posted against an invoice customer or vendor ledger entry. An entry with an entry type of initial entry that contains the amounts and currencies of the payment. So the entry actually matches a single entry for the payment, the customer or vendor, and the payment and the document type, which in this case would be an actual payment. All right. So with that said, we just need to understand how to actually review the information. So every time you work within the journal, review that everything is according using the information. Very important to use payment and the information we have just selected for the actual currencies, the application that we have just done in our entry page when we just selected the actual document to pay and so on. So don't forget to do that. It will be very important because this will be actually then just generating a gains or losses. It depends of the actual type of transaction and the exchange rate, of course, right? So then what happened, and well, most importantly, after you operate the first in this first part of the webinar, we would need just to be sure that what we are doing with our operations, first purchase, sales, and then our payments, we understand that part and we understand how to set that up, all right? Then we would need to then once in a while review that the exchange rates are okay. And this is very important for us to understand that you once in a while will need to adjust the actual exchange rate to understand maybe if the sales or purchase operations are okay with the actual local currency amount for the operations of a single period. Normally for a day, but this could be sometimes according to the policies for a week or even for a month, or even according to the country policies, it's just a fixed exchange rate, okay? Within definition, you would need to not necessarily manage all the exchange rate functionality in terms of adjusting the exchange rates. But let me just show you at least in how it works and how does it looks. So the first task to enter is to enter adjustment exchange rate. Okay, all right. So in order to do so, let's say that we have just posted some transactions, and then we would need to just configure the actual exchange rate for my currency. Here I have CAD once again, and I would like to make some adjustments. And here I have the exchange rates table for Canadian dollars. For me, it will be really important now that I'm working in November, because remember, I was working with 2017 exchange rate, which is in our example, just simple, not admissible to work with this type of rates anymore, of course. Now, for me, it will be more important now to then update this information. And here for me, what I want to do is just to update this to the actual date, or maybe at least for the first of the actual period. So all the transactions in November would be, if it's November the 1st, we'll be using the actual exchange rate that we are just using. In this case, I would consider that it's more, the currency is now, let's say, more expensive. So I would like to use, instead of 66, why not 68? So I'm just changing the relation between the local and the Canadian dollar shown here. So for me, it would be then a matter of making some adjustments. What are the type of operations I need to do? I know that all the transactions, because I was using this demo environment, but with actually taking a look at the actual data is very old. Now, in order for me to correct my operations, I will need to make a simple adjustment. What is required here is just, once I have just set up the actual value of the currency used in my documents and my processes in general in the company, I would need to use and I would need to adjust the exchange rate according to the actual value that I actually just predefined. So with that, I will be just actually updating in the system the information that I have just configured with the new value. So the starting date for this type of change would be just from the 1st to the 30th of April. Now, in the posting description, you can see that something was predefined before. Okay, this is quite interesting. Okay, the default text is the exchange rate for 1%, 2%. If you can see here, exchange rate adjust. Okay, when you post the entries, the 1% is replaced by the currency code, just for you to know. And the 2% is replaced by the currency amount that is adjusted, okay? So this method results in, for example, exchange rate for the euros we are using, okay? So now, the posting date here specifies the date on which the adjustment entries are posted. So in this case, for the last day, okay? Just as an example, because this is normally done for closing activities, not normally done unless you have a lot of transactions. You will be then you would require to do this oftenly, right? To avoid to have to update thousands of transactions. With that, I'm just going to insert a document number. So in my example, I just would like to exchange. So FX change 1, something like that. So this is the actual information I'm just generating. And then we can generate these adjust customer vendor bank accounts. This is important if you actually just want to filter just one type of adjustment for some type of accounts, or all of them in one single round, okay? So remember, place a filter for all this information, and then we'll place a filter on the currency codes if you want to adjust one currency only, or a selection of filters, okay? It's just here in this case. So we know that we have just operated with CAD in this brief webinar, but you can just do so without issues for any other type of a transaction, okay? So just add it. You don't have to, but in this example, just let me add CAD, and then we can click on OK. Okay, so once we have just worked with this, well, in this case, there's nothing to post because I used to post in the past, maybe. Just let me just review once again my process, and I just exchange rate it once again. You can see that all my filters are here, okay? But I know that I was posting in the 2017 year some transactions, okay? Well, at least with those figures, so I would like to adjust the exchange rates that I will be registering, okay? So let me see. Okay, so at this point, this is not affecting any other further transaction, but you can see that how actually the adjustment will be used in order to work with this. Let me show some exercises that I have done in the past for me to show you how it will be shown, because it's important in this webinar to present information according to what we are actually just reviewing, because we need to update, and this will be generating some further transactions. So once I have just run the batch, I would need to go and open the GL register window. Let me just open that. And once you register this type of journals, this will be generating some lines created when you process the actual a batch job, and you will need to check the general ledger entries posted, and you can see how has created the lines by using the gains or losses account, GL accounts, it depends, or the purchases or sales, it depends, and the description. For in this case, this is a purchase. So everything was just it's interesting also to see that we generate transactions for different, in this case, vendors for the operation, where we can just review the detail, okay? It's so important that we look at the balances. And for the first time, we'll take a look at the balances generated, and we have the GL, the entry, and we might have here the differences for local and the exchange rate and the values generated. In this case, we are clicking on the amount to show the detail for the vendor ledger entries. You can see and analyze here, most importantly for our last exercise, while we were adjusting that, we have an invoice that currently was posted for 7,000. But then later, we generated a specific adjustment where we have unrealized, in this case, could be gains or losses, for us to understand that we might be generating for our currency operations, well, a loss in this example. Every time we adjust our currencies, we might be generating this type of figures for our transaction. This way, Business Central process the exchange rate differences, in this case on the vendor ledger entries, for you to see as well in your actual balances any required detail. Hopefully this is easy to understand at this point, so we don't make any confusion on what you actually see, because it depends on your actual operation on how you actually proceed all this information, right? So with this, we are just saying that, okay, we have just posted, we need then to adjust information, and with that, we might be then working properly with our specific exchange rates, okay? Very, very important. Now, once we have just reviewed that part, why not to work with our reports, okay? In first place, multi-currency also includes not only the operations that we have shown, purchase, sales, and banks payments, but the adjustment of the exchange rate for the particular currency that we work with. Now, we need to sometimes set up an additional reporting currency. This is not for all the companies, not necessarily if you only just use multi-currency, you can still continue to work with your local reports in your local currency. But with Business Central, companies can record general ledger transactions in local currency, as we have mentioned, and an additional reporting currency as we have just shown. Okay, the main purpose for using an additional reporting currency is to generate, of course, reports that are more meaningful to users on financial statement and other reports. Now, the following is a required setup for using an additional reporting currency, okay? We are going to select a general ledger account for posting exchange rate adjustments, specify the exchange rate adjustment method for the general ledger accounts. Remember that this is for reporting purposes, even for taxes, enable the additional reporting currency, and so on, in order to present the actual reports, okay? So what I'm gonna do is just generate, very important. Let's go to the currency card. One second, please. And I'm gonna open the currency set up for the actual values that we need to set up for. Perfect. For our webinar. Okay. First of all, make sure that your setup covers the following fields: unrealized gains and unrealized losses accounts. Okay. Here is realized gains and realized gain losses are here. And let me see. Unrealized account losses here and the unrealized accounts that are here, okay? We need to work with this because if we don't actually set them up, the actual reporting is not going to be completed properly. Okay, I will be just for the demo purpose using, but actually this should be different accounts. Okay, for best practice, I mean, okay, because some of the accounts are not actually realized at the moment of the actual procedure. So we are talking about closing entries. Okay, so then if a currency is used as an additional reporting currency, the entries for that currency on the exchange, on the currency exchange rates page must not be overwritten, okay? So let's go and set up the chart of accounts, okay? When you use an additional reporting currency, make a selection of every GL posting account in the exchange rate adjustment field, okay? This selection determines how amounts for an account will be adjusted for exchange rate fluctuations. Let me just take a look at the actual figures in order to complete our setup in first place. So let me just close my currency card where I have just set up some accounts in first place for you to show to present you the functionality. And then we have the general ledger setup. In order to work with the actual setups now for our reports. Okay, here is. Now, we have one specific tab for reporting, just to finalize this part, where we will be working with information when you use an additional reporting currency. You can use the BAT exchange rate adjustment field on the general ledger's setup on the BAT posting group page that are adjusted for exchange rate fluctuations, adjustment between local currencies, and the additional currency are calculated when the adjust exchange rate batch of to adjust GL accounts is run. Okay, so let me show you that part. Maybe the field is not here. Okay. For our differences. Okay, here is. So we have some differences that we might be using. Okay, just leave some amounts because remember that we might be actually working with that on not only for the amounts where I have just explained it, but it's important to generate that type of a configuration also for your taxes. Okay, so we are just saying that we are just allowing differences, which is fine at this point, and we are not working with the so Business Central is going to help us and allow us to work with that. Okay, now let's activate an additional reporting currency. Here in the general ledger setup page, we can select an additional currency that you want to report, right? So we will receive a confirmation message that describes the effect of activating the additional reporting currency, right? So let's try to work with this and adjust the exchange rates in our example. We have just seen how it is done, and the reporting currencies. We have just account scheduled for balances. We have one report that we generate for reporting in other currencies, and we generate some other for income and the cash flow and so on. So once we have just done that, we already know how to work with the general scenario, okay? And we will go now directly to the exercise. Now, I'm expanding now the reporting fast tab. In the additional reporting currency, I'm just going to add CAD as an example. And in this example, I need to add a document currency, which is the ACY for the additional reporting currency used in this case. And I will need a retaining earnings account. I don't remember the name of this. It was a 3 maybe. Yes, here it is. Okay, retained earnings account in order to work with our entries that we're going to be working with. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to click on OK. We have just set up an additional reporting currency. Let me see additional. What is the error? Document number. Maybe. Okay, that's fine. And 3 account, retained earnings. It's okay. 1 second, it has a bug again. Let me try to use another currency in order to work with this. Okay, for now, this contains a bug that won't allow me to actually just convert all my figures properly. But in this case, once we just do this, I would like to then go and review my account schedule. Because the idea of this specific feature is that we have prepared our, we would need to prepare the reports for you in our actual setups that we do in account schedule, where we generate reports in advance for balance sheet, for a, let me open the account schedule page. Here is account schedules. We have generated for you the different reports, at least the basics, where you operate with your balances, cash flow, and so on, right? So in this case, I'm going to select the imbalance, and I'm just going to review that all the information is fine. Okay. Oh, but instead of just copying it, let me open the actual account schedule and use the same one. I was going to create a new one, but it would be better just to use the same information, right? So for me to work for the first time, I would like to click on overview. Now I'm looking at the actual balance. And while I'm just taking a look at the actual figures, I would need just to verify, okay, this is the actual currency. But in this case, I will be having a check mark in order to recalculate, but by using the feature of adding another currency, okay? So I will be having here for all my reports an additional setup for my exchange rate to be used with the last currency that I just specified in the reporting currency. In this case, with the demo environment, I wasn't allowed to do so, but this will be normally just by opening your account schedules that you normally work with. You just select the actual currency that you want to work with. And you will need to select just the amounts in in the additional reporting currency. Okay, that is not at this moment allowed for me to present because of the bug that it presents. But this will be the procedure, and this will be presenting the information for us. Okay, so thank you very much. Hopefully this could be clear, and this could help you with the actual operation. And sorry for the bug, but this is a demo environment that Microsoft provides for us, and in this moment it's not allowing to work with the last reporting and additional currency. But all the setups that we have seen, we just work with this way. So thank you very much for your time, and hopefully this can be clear and simple. I always like to use simple examples for us to work with every webinar instead of working with complex definitions. So if you have any doubt about how to use the multi-currency, and if you want to implement it, just let me know so we can just work together as usual with our different topics that we have every week. So this was a multi-currency. Thank you very much for your time, and see you.